The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Okay, my name's Graham Williamson. I'm going to go through a webinar this morning on digital disruption. So I hope that's the one that you're all expecting, because that's what we're going to go through. Just a couple of words of introduction. These webinars are part of a series, excuse me, are part of a series of webinars that are being provided by the IMC just as an increase in the member value. The topics are selected as to be of particular importance to management consultants. I personally have found that it's really been a broadening experience for me. My specialty is information technology, but as a management consultant, we need to be aware of many other things that are happening around us and that are impacting our clients. So I'm really appreciating this webinar series, and I trust that you're all finding that it is improving member value. There will be a recording of the webinar, and that'll be made available to members should they wish to want to go through it again. Now, I realise that the bar has been set a little bit high by Chris Mason in regard to the webinar he did. So we'll see if we can provide some really useful and important information to you. And basically, I trust that this short time that we have together will be of value to you. As I mentioned, my name is Graham Williamson. I've operated a consultancy company for some 22 years now, called Internet Commerce Australia, and our focus is indeed on information security. We started in the commerce space, but as the banks commoditized that, we moved into our area of specialty now, which is in information management, and in particular, management of identity information that you might have in your organization. The specific topic, though, that we're going to address today is the whole topic of digital disruption and what impact might it have on your clients. So the agenda is basically three parts. I want to look at a little bit of the history. Is this something new, or is it something that organizations have had to deal with for some time? What about technology trends? What are the sort of things that are going to cause us disruption? There's three in particular that we're going to talk about. I call them the megatrends. That's the movement to the cloud, the use of mobile devices, and Internet of Things, what's happening in that whole area of connectivity. And then lastly, a couple of slides on how we can help our customers, what we can do to help them avoid issues that might arise and take advantage of the opportunities that might arise also. To frame the discussions, I thought what we would do is focus on the reason for companies. And I think by the end of it, you'll see why. I was introduced to Ronald Coase in my MBA days, and Ronald Coase won the Nobel Prize for Economics. That's not the Peace Prize, that's the Nobel Prize for Economics back in '91. And he won it for work that he had done where he basically showed that companies exist to reduce transaction costs. That's their main modus operandi, is to do things to enable them to reduce their costs so that they can provide their products and services for a reasonable rate to their customers. So if you think about it, I couldn't make an automobile. So when I need an automobile, I'd go to a company that's got the specialty and capabilities of producing an automobile at a reasonable cost. That's something I couldn't do. And obviously, organizations, as they come together, they've got many components within the organization, they can minimize the costs for the organization to doing things. So the whole concept here is how do we reduce costs? Technology's got an immense capability to allow us to do that. No, disruption's not new. It's been happening since the beginning of time. Digital disruption is new, but that's just the way in which the disruption is happening. Back in the 1890s, there was a real rush to lay railways, build locomotives, and cross the continent and continents. Every organization, particularly Europe, experienced this, where railway companies were the de jure stock to purchase, and everything was going very well. If you could lay some track and buy a locomotive, it was a cash cow for you. That evaporated quite quickly when Henry Ford came along and made automobiles cheap for the populace to purchase, and roads started to be built. And then on top of that, the airline industry took off. And all of a sudden, the railway companies realized that they weren't actually in the business of railway running, they were in the business of transportation. And if they kept track of what was happening in society in regard to transportation, then maybe they could have transitioned to accommodate the new technology. I mean, of recent, we've had the issue with Kodak. I'm told actually that Kodak had a project looking at digital imaging, and the project concluded that digital imaging would never take off because you could never get a high enough definition of a digital picture. So therefore, the film industry was going to live on, and we all realize now how wrong that was. But there's a message there for us. I, particularly coming from a technology background, when I hear about something new, I think, no, that's not going to be possible. We don't have the processor speed to handle that. We don't have enough memory to handle that. We don't have fast enough communication links to handle that. Well, if that's the tack you take, a better approach is to just wait, because what we've seen is storage getting larger, compute facilities getting better, transmission capabilities getting faster. So we need to make sure that we don't underestimate how technology is changing. Cassette music, I mean, it's something that's of the past now. Even CDs. I mean, CDs in the last 10 years have fallen into disuse. Everything now is on smartphones or on thumb drives, or we want our media now in very transportable mechanisms and very much in a soft sense. We don't want to have to put CDs into players anymore. Video rental companies say no more. Even mobile phone producers. I mean, I'm sure we all remember Nokia, who's a major component of the Swedish economy, actually, but that is no more. Well, it was purchased by Microsoft. So it goes on and on and on, and I think we can safely say that it's accelerating. So, yep, maybe digital disruption hasn't been around for too long, but definitely business disruption has. Being able to keep track of technology and not only avoid the threats associated with it, but also take advantage of the opportunities that arise because of it. I like the book by, Peter Diamandis called Abundance. So the title is Abundance, and the subtitle is The Future is Brighter Than You Think. And he makes some interesting observations. Just a couple of them. Driverless cars. Okay, now we all chuckle when we hear about driverless cars and the things that are happening that Google's doing and others. Quite frankly, the car industry is putting an immense amount of energy, time, cost and effort into driverless cars. So I think we can safely say that, well, within my lifetime, I'm going to be able to drive to work in a driverless car. What does that mean to me? Now, if I really believe that's going to happen, what does that mean to me? Electric cars. I mean, if any of your clients are in the service center industry, I would suggest that's one area that there's going to be some mega change. So if your client is relying on pumping petrol for their business, I would suggest that in the future, in the not too distant future, there's going to be such a high proportion of electric cars that there's not only a threat there, but an opportunity for them. Travel into space. Peter says that in our lifetime, we will travel into space. Okay, you know, as far as my lifetime, I don't doubt that I might go on some sort of intercontinental trip that might go up to the stratosphere. But undoubtedly, my children will have the opportunity of holidaying in space. What does that mean? You know, what threats are there? What opportunities are there? Medical devices. And within a few years now, we're probably talking maybe a 5-year window, you're going to be able to purchase a device that is going to provide you a diagnostic capability, health diagnostic capability, better than what your GP can probably do. So you're going to have this device in your home. You'll probably give it a blood sample. You probably give it a saliva sample. It'll probably measure your blood pressure, and then we'll tell you things that your GP isn't or wouldn't be able to do without a series of tests. Yeah, what does that mean to us? Is there something there that we can say, that there's a good business opportunity there, or is there something there that we could say, really, we should be exiting that particular industry or making this transition? So I guess that's what I'm suggesting, that as management consultants we need to do. We need to help our customers think through what the issues are that are coming through society. Companies generally rely on a number of things. Companies are generally pretty good at doing the products and services that they provide. And the reason for that is they've done it quite a bit, and they can repeat the process, and they can do it quicker, and they can do it more cheaply, and they can therefore make money. So great growth comes along because they can keep doing something that they're good at. So if you look at the competitive advantage, and all organizations have to understand their competitive advantage, if you're relying on your location for your competitive advantage, or if you're relying on unique skills, both of those are areas where digital disruption is likely to cause some grief. Okay, so what we're finding is more and more activities moving online. We no longer need to rely on somebody being somewhere at any particular point in time. The very fact that I'm currently in Darwin and you're listening to this webinar is indicative of the fact that location is becoming less important. When it comes to unique skills, skills are transferable. And what we're finding is organizations that thought they had a lock on the market, thought they had the unique skills that give them that competitive advantage that they seek. We're finding that those organizations now are being threatened by startups. Startups that can develop the skills quite quickly, can probably modify skills more in tune with what the market's looking for. So if your clients are, relying on location or unique skills, those are two alarm bells in terms of digital disruption. So keep in mind that, yes, obviously companies grow because they're good at doing what they do, and that's part of it. But if they're relying on factors that can be threatened, then that's not good. So just a couple of statistics that I found. The Of the top 100 companies in England, in 2000, only half of them exist in the same format as they did 15 years ago. Only half of them. Now, they haven't disappeared. But what they've done is they've transitioned. There's been mergers, there's been acquisitions, and they're not the company that they were just 15 years ago. 50%. 85 of the percent of those companies, again, in the format that they existed back in 1955, no longer existed. That means only 15% of the organizations in England, the large ones, in 1955 still exist. In terms of the Standard & Poor's Company Index, the lifespan of a company used to be, back in the 1920s, used to be 67 years. That was generally how long a company existed. Now it's 15. So what we're seeing, and what we better get used to, is significant and considerable churn in how organizations come together, do their business, and then migrate into something that can continue growing and can continue doing business. So some of you, I know, actually work in the merger and acquisition area, so you're well familiar with this. For those that don't, it's worthwhile keeping an eye on our clients to see how we might help them in merger and acquisition type of activities. This is an interesting slide put together by Deloitte. It looks to, and I'd encourage you to go download the report. There's a whole report around this. It's called Short Fuse Big Bang, and it's on their website. So go to Deloitte's website, and you just need to register and download the document. It's an analysis of Australian economy, and they talk about disruption and what can be expected. This particular slide is saying, look, there's a time frame here. So what's actually shown is on the horizontal axis, 5 years. And the actual impact of digital disruption on different industries is going to vary. And so the vertical axis goes from 0 up to 50%, which is pretty dramatic. So the slide says, look, retail, trade, ICT and media, finance, these are all areas that are set for a big bang in a short time frame. So if you've got clients in those areas, that should be a warning bell. You know, if they're in transport, if they're in health, recruitment, if they're service industries such as cleaning, even the large ones like utilities, you've probably got a bit longer, but it's still going to happen. There's still going to be a big bang. Those in the top quadrants are the ones that are going to experience significant disruption. So this is just indicative. It's by no means should you say, oh, because I'm dealing with the utility, we don't have to worry about it for 5 years. You know, in the utility market, things don't happen that quickly, and if a big bang's coming in 5 years, you better get ready today. So take a look at your clients, analyze them, and you need to take an approach that says, how vulnerable is my customer to digital disruption? And then you need to help them understand that. I always remember an interesting statistic that I stuck in my head from a Harvard Business Review I read many years ago that basically says most CEOs spend 3% of their time worrying about externalities, like what's happening in their industry, what's happening with their competitors. 97% of the time is spent worrying about what's actually happening in their industry. And this is where management consultants are so valuable. They can come to the CEO and says, I know you've got to run a business and you're pedaling hard to keep above water. Let me help you in the externalities and understanding what that could mean. So what we're suggesting here is digital disruption can be a real opportunity for management consultants in assisting their clients. This is another graph. A friend of mine, Ian Sampson in Glanton Industries put this together, and I thought it was very good. There's basically, our clients have two options. One is growth and one is decline. Now, obviously, you say, well, nobody's going to choose decline. No, they're not. But if they don't choose growth, they have. There's no middle ground. Okay, you have to choose one or the other. Now, if you're going to choose growth, you're going to need to look at technology and say, how am I going to adopt that technology? What do I need? What do I need to do? Do I need to have a skunkworks where I trial technology? Do I need to encourage my staff to participate in events that help me understand what can happen here? So there needs to be this adoption phase. Okay, if you take the maintain approach, steady as she goes, we don't need to make any changes. Don't fix it if it's not broken. Then you've chosen the lower quadrant there, and you're on the line that's going to go down through stagnation. If you're on the growth, though, let's stick with the growth for a minute. If you do that adoption, you now need to look at what does my client need to do to take advantage of that. There's very few circumstances where you can decide to adopt change and not make transformation activities within the organization. So, for instance, I've just finished a job with the Queensland government where we looked at how does the Queensland government need to take advantage of the opportunities that arise now so that their agencies can use the new technology to their benefit. And one of the findings was that right now, the Queensland government is set in a series of agencies that have their own internal structure. So there's a CIO in each agency looking after the IT issues within that agency. So it becomes very difficult for the Queensland government as a whole to start looking at, well, how can I take advantage of digital disruption? I need to actually make some transformation within my organization in order to take advantage of the opportunities that arise. In fact, a number of government organizations are moving away from a CIO role to a CDO role, a Chief Digital Officer role. And this is indicative of accommodating the change or the transformation that's required in order to take advantage of the digital disruption that is facing society. Once you've done that, then you're moving into the innovation space. Apologies for the spelling mistake. So once we've adopted the technology, once we've transformed, now and only then can we innovate. I don't know about you, but I've come across many clients who talk about innovation. They talk about how important it is to develop an innovative culture within their organization, but then do nothing about it. Unless you're willing to do those transformational activities, you're really not going to be able to exploit the innovation opportunities that you have. Just a very quick one then on the downward curve. So you do decide to steady as she goes, we're going to maintain what we're going to do. You're then going to move into an area of might I call it stagnation. You're going to find that your staff are going to leave, your clients are going to look at new pastures, and you're definitely then going to be on that downward curve into disruption. You will be disrupted out of business. So you need to be able to decide which of those two options you go. And I'm not sure who said it, but standing still is not an option. Okay, just talking about then these three megatrends that I feel are driving digital disruption in society. The first is the cloud. You need to help your clients understand that. You need to help them decide, are they moving into public services? Can they use public services? So AWS or Azure or Google all provide very good public cloud infrastructures that your clients can and should be using. In some cases, particularly for the larger organizations, they are very reticent to put information in the cloud. They shouldn't be, but they are. And so maybe some opportunities there to move into private cloud would be the go. And all of the large organizations provide a cloud service function. Mobile devices, we're talking here about tablets and phones, smartphones. So they're the devices that are running the iOS operating system. That's the Apple smartphones. Android is the used by many smartphones and tablets. Windows is on the ascendancy. The Windows 10 is available now across multiple devices, and we're seeing large adoption of the Microsoft Surface. So that's one to consider. If you've still got BlackBerries in the business, you'll need to support that too. In terms of the Internet of Things, I'll tell you a quick story. When the Internet of Things became real to me, my daughter, for her 30th birthday, got a Fitbit. Now, for the young'uns in the audience, the Fitbit is a device that you wear on your wrist that's basically a fancy pedometer. It measures how many steps you take in a day. But then it connects to your phone, and your phone does some pretty impressive things. It formats the data for you, so you can see graphs of what you've done in a day or a week or a month. And then it goes a step further and starts comparing you with similar people on a global basis. And my daughter confessed to me, said, "Dad, last night I got up at 11:30 to jump on the tramp to get my steps up so I could beat Fiona in Vermont." It struck me what powerful technology is now in front of us, where we've got connectivity beyond our wildest dreams. We could not have dreamt of this even 10 years ago. There's also a danger here, and we'll talk a minute. I've got a slide on information technology. I think we're going to see some tears in this space in the not too distant future. Okay, so let's just look a little bit more at those three areas. Cloud. There's basically two types of companies: those that are in the cloud, they were made for the cloud, it's part of their DNA, and those that should be in the cloud. And if you're should be in the cloud area, you need to consider, well, what's going to happen in your industry with those companies that were made for the cloud. So if you are right now operating in a particular industry, dollars to donuts, there's some startups in your industry that aren't buying computers, they aren't buying computer programs, they're using cloud services a lot quicker and a lot more agile than your particular situation. So you do need to think through and help your clients think through what their approach is to the cloud. And the promises there are significant. Okay? I've mentioned agility and being able to make changes very quickly. It's hard if you've got a data center with computers that you've purchased that they're not yet end of life, and you paying a systems administrator to look after them, and you've got to have an upgrade done to them. It's very hard to start thinking about how do I make my business agile. One of the big benefits of the cloud service provider is they keep their systems up to date. You don't have to worry about the latest patches and those sorts of things. A biggie is business continuance. Okay, so once you put your data up into the cloud, all you've got to do is tell the cloud service provider what they must do to it in terms of backing it up, making it available when you need it available, and those sorts of things. And again, as an illustrative story, it's told by a compatriot in the UK who works in the cloud area. He tells me of this company that they moved a significant application up into the cloud. There was a large database behind it, and they put it up on cloud services. Well, one weekend there was a corruption, and they had a problem with the application. And so the CIO came in Monday morning and said, well, look, call the cloud service provider, tell them to reload the image from Friday. We'll reapply the journal from that point on, and we'll get back up to date. So they called the cloud service provider, who then advised them that they hadn't purchased the backup option. So again, as your clients move into the cloud, help them understand the sorts of things that they need to be cognizant of as they do that. Benefits are significant, cost savings. Now, there's a caveat on this. I have observed a number of mid-sized companies that don't get the cost savings. In fact, they get a cost increase as they start moving into the cloud. And that's because they maintain on-premise as well as cloud. And the big promise of the cloud is, you can get rid of your data center. But for some organizations, that's quite difficult. And particularly if you no longer need the systems admin people that have done such a good job for you for so long. So I agree, there are some issues around moving to the cloud. But if you're going to move to the cloud, please do it. Don't do a half and half. Some situations I've observed where a company was paying per user fees for their cloud services and still maintaining licenses for their on-premise software. And it's just not on. So be careful of that one. Another big benefit is the ease of communication. So once your clients have committed to the cloud and have moved into the cloud, it becomes much easier for them to communicate with their business partners. So if you want to give access to a supplier, to your inventory system, for instance, much easier to do that once you're in the cloud, and to communicate with your customers, to allow them to come into your website to look at availability of product, to look at catalogs, information, and things like that. So take advantage of the opportunities that the ease of communication has on your business systems. So there's some significant benefit to your business systems there. In terms of mobile devices, the big benefit here is that the devices are always on. The client always has. I can't remember when I didn't have my phone, within reach, and I don't even turn mine off at night. So that's pretty powerful. It's a pretty powerful device. It's also the device of choice for youngins. The millennials these days don't know what to do with a 15-inch screen. It's far too big. They prefer to work with a little smartphone screen. That's their preferred device, and that's actually what you want, because they're providing their own devices. It's a very good business model. I'll tell you one particular story here, just to demonstrate the importance of accommodating phablets. Comes out of the Snowy Mountain Hydro Authority. They have a situation where they basically respond to spot electricity prices. I didn't realize that. They're not a base producer. They just take advantage of the spot pricing. They can bring a generator on very quickly and take advantage of a spike in price of electricity. And so they need the opportunity to be able to monitor that and to be able to make things happen when they need to take advantage of that. And that's not 9 to 5. In fact, a lot of it's in the evening. And so they actually went whole hog and provided 500 smartphones across the organization to assist all areas of their business. And they also then equipped the generating stations, which are in pretty inhospitable places and in mountains and things like that. They equipped it all with Wi-Fi capabilities. So now a technician, for instance, can walk into a generator station from their smartphone. They can participate in online meetings. They have solved the connectivity issue there. So smartphones can be a real boon for your business. Don't dismiss them out of hand. Some of the dangers, obviously, you need to make sure that you don't get unauthorized access to your data. And the technology is there in spades to do that now. So there's protocols that make sure that when somebody connects from a smartphone, you are absolutely beyond a shadow of a doubt know who that is. There's the opportunity for data loss. Obviously, if somebody leaves their smartphone in a taxi, you need to make sure that you've got some way of managing any data that might be on that device as well. Again, the technology is there. That should not be an impediment to moving ahead. As we said, cost savings are the significant benefit here. The cost savings, though, are not just in the device costs. They are also in the agility that it provides your staff and customers. but particularly for your staff, they're no longer tied to a 9-to-5 desk job, and you can provide them a much better life balance by providing them the capabilities of doing activities in what we might consider non-conventional ways. Okay, the Internet of Things, I just want to dwell on that just a little bit longer. We now have unprecedented access to devices. We can monitor things, we can record things, we can actuate things, we can switch things on and switch things on so much easier. My son had a party the other day, and his partner had with him one of those baby monitors. They have an 18-year-old son right now. And so she wanted to participate in the party activity, so she brought the baby monitor with her and kept it on the table beside her. One of her friends, also with a young'un, cracked open her smartphone and showed her a picture, a live video of her son's bed with audio that she had, even though he was at home with Dad, but was at home 5 kilometers away. We've got unprecedented access to data now, and to things, and to being able to control things. So you need to think through, what does that mean? What threats are there, and what benefits are that you could take advantage of? The big danger, and this is where we're going to see the tears, is in interface security. If you remember, just a few months ago, there was a demonstration of hacking into the electronics of a Jeep. Well, those sorts of things are going to happen. And again, if your clients are working in this space, please make sure that they take the necessary precautions. When it comes to designing an interface for a device, there are rules. And the problem that comes about is when at the C-level, they decide that they are going to abrogate their responsibility for that and leave it up to managers who, in some cases, are just not competent in properly managing system development. So again, this is just something to keep in the back of your mind. If your client is involved in developing technology and is making systems that connect to each other, make sure that they have somebody there advising them on what are the rules and how should they set the policies in regard to that. I mean, I have no qualms in saying that we suffer in Australia from boards of governance and upper level management not taking an active role in setting policy within their organizations. So I come across it all the time in the technology space. Generally, companies have two policies. One is the internet use policy, what's acceptable or not, and then there's typically one on privacy. That's it. Nobody's setting the raft of other rules they need to in determining who should have access to what you should do to refresh data. All of these other policies are not being set, and we need to help our clients realize that they need to take a very active role in setting policy that provides guidance to their whole organization. If you can take advantage of the Internet of Things, though, you find yourself having unprecedented control on the systems and information that you need to run your business. So, just a couple of slides now on next steps. Up foremost has to be ensuring that your clients are not victims, helping them understand that this stuff is very real, technology is galloping ahead at an ever faster pace, and just help them stop and think about it for a little bit. You need to start at the C-level. That's where the relationship needs to be, because it's at that level that the authority comes to make things happen. And you need to help them take a big picture view of what their business is, the ecosystem that it operates in, help them with the whole governance space, help them take control of their organization and not just let things happen. If you just let things happen, then you have the Volkswagen debacle. You need to develop a trusted advisor status. Now, you might need to engage specialists as necessary, but make sure that you tell them that that's what they've got to do. You need to make sure that they you work with your business people and help them define what they need to do in terms of the future and where things are going. And I'd like to just introduce you to a process that I've been able to use quite successfully and have seen used very successfully. I call it end state planning. So at an end state planning workshop, you need to get together some knowledgeable staff. Now, these are not C-level. We're talking now people that understand the business. They're the people working at the coal face for the business. They'll probably be in areas like product development, business development. They'd have titles like that. Might be in marketing, but you don't want too many of them. You need to pull together this knowledgeable staff, and probably 10 to 15 is a good number. If it's 5 or less, that's too few. Once you get up to 20, it could get a bit unruly. So you need to set the stage for them and give them a few introductory comments as far as technology and where it's all going. But then you need to pose the question that what will their clients, their customers, what will their customers' environment look like in 5 years' time? If you want to go further out, 10 years' time, fine. But in technology space, 5 years is a long time. So have them then contribute ideas as to what their customers will be doing in 5 years' time. Not necessarily with their products and services, just what will they be doing? What will be the scenario, the environment that they're working in? And then you run a green light session. A green light session runs for about 30 minutes, and anything goes. Okay, you do not poo-poo any idea. So you as the management consultant, all you've got to do is stand at the front of the room with a set of sticky labels, and as people come up with ideas, you just write them on a sticky label. You might, in the green light sessions, group them a little bit, because you'll have some that will talk about environmental issues. Some will be product related. Some will be just general society issues, like, will be all our cars will be flying. We won't need to go on a road anymore. And you'll get silly things like this. But in a green light session, you're not allowed to poo-poo any idea. You've got to write each one of them down on one of the sticky labels, and you put them all up on a board. Then when the ideas peter out, you then need to do a red light session. And this might take you 20 minutes, where you have the attendees sort through the ideas. And you'll have some very silly ideas, and you'll have some silly ideas, and those can all be put in the parked basket. In amongst them, you will have some nuggets that you can then put in a report. You've got to prioritize them. You've got to say, well, what's the most important and what's the least important? What's close in and something we've got to do quite quickly, or what can we leave till 6 months, a year from now? And use the group to decide that. You don't have to decide that. That's the beauty of this exercise. You actually don't have to do much. Once you've got that information, all you must do is put it in a report and put an invoice on it. Okay, so you need to take the ideas, document them, indicate the priority that the attendees thought was important, and then potentially make a presentation to the C-level managers and help them open their eyes to some of the possibilities for the things that they could be doing or might want to look at doing. So I've seen this used quite effectively in the technology space. So it's something you might want to consider. So in conclusion, as management consultants, we must assist our clients to understand what the risk is. We need to help them quantify that in terms of, is this something that's very real, very quick, or is it something that is probably a few years off? We need to help them understand that. I'd suggest that if you can be part of an annual workshop that they do, many organizations come together on an annual basis to consider where they've come from and where they're going. Have an activity in that space where you help them look at some strategy. Help them set policy, please, 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 please. Governance is so important. They need to be proactive so that they don't have to be reactive. Okay. I think that we can help our organizations avoid heartache by just taking a governance approach to their activities. And then stay abreast of technology. I know that sometimes that's not easy because it's galloping ahead at such a fast pace, but I'm afraid standing still is not an option. Okay, that's basically what I wanted to go through in this session. As I said, the session will be available to members, and so do avail yourself of that if that's of interest. If there are any questions, stick them in the question box here, and we can take a look at those. We've got a few minutes left. Okay. The question here about the Ashley Madison scenario, more likely in the cloud. Yeah, Ashley Madison was an issue where the hackers were on a particular bent, and they were able to get access that they shouldn't have been able to get access to. So I don't think the cloud issue there was any particular issue. I can talk more intelligently about a situation that happened on the Gold Coast with an organization I know, Medical Center. They had their system hacked, their whole database encrypted. The fact that that could happen was a travesty, and it was based on the fact that they hadn't changed the default passwords on their server. It's the silly things that happen that cause the problem, not particularly whether it was in the cloud or not. How do consultants stay abreast of technology? It's an interesting one. You do need to make sure that you are tapped into newsletters. There are some very good ones around that you need to keep a track of. I find that it's so easy to get information these days. There's lots of newsletters. It's a matter of finding the ones that best suit you. I mean, quite frankly, I think the Australian does a wonderful job with its once a week media, if you like, the broadsheet, and they also, of course, keep it up to date on that online. So there's a variety of ways of doing that. You might need to get some expert opinion in certain areas, but you need to identify the issue first. So yeah, media is a good way of doing that. Okay, there's just a question for a clarification on C levels. That's the CEO, CIO, CFO group that basically are running the company. So you'll find that the executives are making decisions. They need to make decisions in the digital disruption space. They need to understand what's happening there. So I talked to a number of CIOs, and I'm afraid I'm not impressed. A number of CIOs that abrogate their responsibility to their staff. Well, I'm afraid you can't abrogate responsibility. You have to take it by the horns and manage it. That's what they're being paid for. So you can't stick your head in the sand, and it's that the Chief Executive Officer, Chief Information Officer, Chief Financial Officer, they're the people that should be taking responsibility for that. And that is where the the cognizant of digital disruption needs to be in the fore. It's a question on risk management. Yeah, risk management approach is something I fully support. So for the particular risks that a particular technology might afford your client, you need to look at, okay, what's the likelihood of it? What's the probability of it happening? And if it happens, what's the impact of it happening? Obviously, if it's low impact and unlikely to happen, it's something you can probably not worry about. If it is either of those isn't true, so if it's high impact, even if it's low probability, you need to have some control in place to make sure that that risk doesn't eventuate. Obviously, if it's high impact, and high probability it's probably you're going to do something about that. Okay, well, let's come to the end of our time. Appreciate your attendance. If there's any individual questions, shoot them to me, but you will get access to a copy of this webinar in the near future.